Hello everybody, I'm George from Ireland. Here I'm in Cape Town. Look at that Darien Square, except it's not a square. Named after that place in Panama. Remember where the Scots, they had their Darien venture at the beginning of the 18th century? This ingenious plan to get rich by selling things that people really need in the tropics, like wool and wigs and stuff like that. Scotland invested so much of its national wealth in that, almost went bankrupt. It's one of the things that precipitated the Act of Union, when Scotland united with Wales and England. But anyway, here I am on Lower Main Street in the Observatory area of Cape Town, commonly called OBS. See Lower Main Street. The street over there says Norwich Street. So many of the toponyms relate to places in the British Isles. So just in case, you know, you're one of those Irish people who's in denial about the fact that we were the most avid imperialists, many of the toponyms relate to Ireland. There's Athlone, for example, who look bang bang, selling all these military uniform things and toy guns. Athlone is here. There's Bantry Bay, and there's more places. There's like Killarney, as in County Kerry, here. And what else? There are places in Great Britain like Llandudno, Malmesbury, Wellington. Where else? And then places named after the Netherlands like Kollenburg, because that's where Jan van Riebeeck came from. And there's one named after one of the early Portuguese sea captains who came here, Saldanha, if I got that right. So look at all these boutiques. This is a middle class area in Cape Town, just down from Grote Schuur Hospital, where Dr. Christian Barnard performed the first human heart transplant in the world in the 1960s. And the old theatre where he operated is there as a museum these days, apparently with life-size models of what he managed to achieve. Anyway, so it's all very low rise in human scale and quite colourful as well. I can see that the quality of the cars are nothing quite small, but new cars, clean and in good condition and so on. So quite prosperous. But where I've seen around Cape Town, places like Sea Point and Constance and so on, that's the richest part, the richest city in Africa, not just South Africa. So completely unrepresentative. So you can see how life is very pleasant here with this Mediterranean climate and fairly stress-free, and even the traffic's not too bad. You know, even in a traffic jam to get here from here to the centre of Cape Town, that would take like 25 minutes or something. And that's about 8 kilometres, completely metric here. And look over there, Khan's supermarket. So about 3% of the population of South Africa are ethnically Indian, but the Indian South Africans, they often came over the late 19th century as indentured labourers, particularly to what's now KwaZulu-Natal. About 30% of the population of Durban. There are not very many of them here in Cape Town, but those who are here, they are often running small boutiques like that one. But they're often intermarried with the Malay community and so on, especially they're Muslims like the Malays. But the Cape Malays are seldom exclusively Malay, often of mixed ethnicity, intermarried with Khoisan people, Bantu people, or whites, and so on. Indians, and of course when we say India, back then we don't think of strictly what's India, but including what's now Bangladesh, Pakistan, even Sri Lanka, even though Sri Lanka was never actually part of India. They use this term loosely. So crossover in a minute. Anyway, it's very pleasant. It does feel slightly like the Wild West with these verandas and these upper galleries and all these cafes and bars. So the population of South Africa is only 7% white, but they're concentrated in certain urban areas. And in Cape Town it's 16% white. And I was surprised to go to some restaurants and cafes and almost all the diners are white. The whites have got way more than 7% of the population. There's still a wealth gap 31 years after the total abolition of apartheid. So some resentment against the African National Congress, which hasn't sufficiently delivered for the masses. Yes, everybody's life is better in the material sense and every other, but the improvement hasn't been sufficient, considering how long the ANC has been in office. Too much corruption and defalcation, so a lot of public money has been squandered. A lot of backhanders and kickbacks for favourable contracts for their cronies. But anyway, still the society functions really well. And obviously people have got more personal freedom. Everyone's got more freedom of expression than under apartheid, and the police are not torturing people, not disappearing people. There's no death penalty, there are no political prisoners, so that is much better. And in as much as the government does discriminate against whites, it is mild. It's 10 times better than it was under the apartheid system. So people can go where they want and marry whomsoever they want freedom of association, go to the same schools, be in the same sports clubs, and of course, you know, the cultural boycott, sporting boycott is long over. So, because before they often couldn't get foreign films or foreign singers to perform here, things like that. So here we go. I like the way it's a little bit bohemian and colourful. Things painted outside that like that. Those murals, what do you think? And like a few sort of live performance venues. There's a pool hall upstairs there, and some very quirky clothes. This is Lower Main Street, this area. They'd heading over to High Street in South Africa, it seems to me. And I've noticed the different lingo saying robots for traffic lights, traffic circle for a, for a roundabout, other things. Or saying "ya" all the time, which is obviously coming directly from Afrikaans. People are quite relaxed about rules of the road, wearing seatbelts, smoking where they want. And as one Safa said to me, you know, you have way more freedom in South Africa in that sense, and get away with speeding or things like that. But it's obviously not terribly safe on the roads. I've not seen any crashes myself. People breaking red lights, or in terms of crime, not very safe either. I do feel quite safe in this area, which I've come to know. And I noticed that children go to school very early, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They're coming back from school, all wearing uniforms. And the thing is, they're often wearing these sweaters just in case they get chilly, when it's not remotely chilly, as you can possibly tell. But so that's it. Then the Cape Doctor, or that wind, comes over Devil's Peak, really cools people off. Called Cape Doctor presumably because it's good for your health. Anyway, observatory area, because yes, there is a big observatory. And on Observatory Street in Oxford, it was a huge observatory, and it really looks like one. It's a marvellous, handsome building. But anyway, all the astronomical equipment was removed and shipped to South Africa in the 1930s. And I wonder whether this came to this one here, because there are two major observatories in South Africa, and this is one of them. I can't remember where the other one is. Yeah, so that's it. And there's some skyscrapers in the city centre, but here towards the edge of the city, there are almost no buildings more than, say, 6 stories high. And, you know, we're just a few kilometres down from Devil's Peak, where the Honourable Cecil John Rhodes is laid to rest. I wonder whether his foes reckon it's apposite that he, not he's laid to rest, sorry, his memorial is. His memorial is on the Devil's Peak, because he's satanic, as some would see. And look, there are a few churches over there. There are loads of churches, but not many Catholics. They're mostly Protestant denominations, Presbyterian, Methodist, Anglican, Dutch Reformed Church. There's even a German Lutheran church, which I believe worships in German to this day. Yeah, so that's it. There's a salt river close to here. I don't know whether the river really is in salt. It's a salty river. Maybe it's freshwater, they simply call it that. Which reminds me of another thing, is how Almeida, that Portuguese governor who landed here in about 1510, and he and his men saw cattle that they would like to steal. They'd had some sort of altercation with the Khoisan with whom they'd been trading, had no common language. And the story goes they also wanted to kidnap some women. But anyway, they were defeated by the local people. So that the Portuguese decided they would never try and settle here. How different history would have panned out if Portugal had taken over here, rather than the Netherlands to begin with. Well, that's enough for me. Thank you for watching my channel. Make sure that you subscribe on Patreon, donate PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Oh yeah, and by the way, I noticed this shop called Euro Clothing, but they got the Union flag to advertise it. Perhaps surprising that. All right, goodbye everyone.